Most of you who have heard me preach before know that I love the Society of St. John the Evangelist in Cambridge, Mass. And I get their daily quotes, and often I will use one of their quotes. Today, however, there were two quotes and I couldn't choose between them, so I'm going to read both of them. Jesus' compassion reached out to outcasts and sinners, the poor, the sick, the oppressed, marginalized people of every kind. The example of Jesus pushes us to examine the barriers we may be tempted to erect in order to exclude those who are not of the same socioeconomic or cultural background as we are, or who differ from us in ways that make us uncomfortable. That was David Vryhoff. The other one, conversion is about having more and more space in our mind and heart for the other people of this world, people whom God so loves. Jesus changed. If we are to follow him, we are going to need to change. It's a lifelong conversion to not only serve Jesus, but to see Jesus in the other, whoever the other is to us, different from us, not normal to us. This is very challenging news. The good news is it's possible, amazingly possible. That was Curtis Almquist. Do you all watch reality shows on TV? I must admit I don't, I haven't, and I probably won't ever. Not my thing. But I have seen ads for them, as I'm sure you all have. And when I read through today's gospel, I thought of our disciples, like contestants on this show. People who participate in those shows will do just about anything to win, to be number one. They're ambitious, and they absolutely want to come in first. They have a need to show that they are the best by any means possible. Sounds like the disciples to me, also sounds like me. In today's gospel, while walking toward Capernaum, Jesus tells them once again, he told them last week, he's telling them again, about his upcoming betrayal, murder, and rising again. Jesus was going in secret because he knew the problems that they'd already had, or he had, with the Pharisees. And Jesus knew there was more trouble ahead. And he was trying to prepare the disciples for that trouble. Now, I'm not sure I would want to pay too close attention to somebody who told me they were going to be betrayed and killed, and the rising again, that's not bad, but do you believe it? So, this is another opportunity lost for the disciples, and perhaps we can all learn from them. Jesus had been surrounded by crowds wherever he went, and he didn't want anyone to know that he was in Capernaum. He wanted to spend some alone time with the disciples so that he could really teach them what was ahead and how it would all come together. Now, although they had witnessed many, many miracles along the way, they still didn't understand what Jesus' mission was or what their mission was to be. Jesus knew he had limited time with them, and he needed to get them on board. They needed to mature so they could carry on. Jesus might have been concerned, too, about when he was no longer with them, would they be able to remember his teaching so they could move forward in servanthood? Now, who wants to be a servant? Nobody. Now, never once did Jesus say thank you to the disciples. Servants weren't thanked. The disciples were servants doing their work for the sake of the kingdom, not for thanks. Servants are the last. Everybody else comes before them. I'll talk about children shortly. Sometimes we might willingly let someone go ahead of us. The grocery line is a good example. If I have lots of stuff in my cart and someone behind me has a few things, I usually let them go ahead because I'm not normally in that much of a hurry. Not in traffic, though. I'm not that good. And when I do something nice, it's not merely because I want to be nice. It's my duty as a servant. And according to Jesus, we can't pick and choose who to let ahead of us. Everyone, no matter who they are, come before us. What a radical way to live. Even people I may not like, I'm supposed to let go ahead of me. And that's something I know that I need to practice, especially on the road. Jesus shows the radical grace of God is vastly different than the world's notion of greatness. Our world views greatness based on what we own, how much money we have, and what we've achieved. Greatness for Jesus means being last, being humble, and being vulnerable as a child is. We find being great on our world's terms much easier than on Jesus' terms. Now, having arrived in Capernaum, they went into a house, and we aren't told whose house. Enter the child. This is a significant event because children are always vulnerable, dependent on others for their basic needs. And in Jesus' time, this was magnified because children had absolutely no status and no rights. They didn't contribute, so they were considered less than. This world of Jesus had only rich and poor. The rich held places of honor, and the richer you were, the higher up you were considered. In the child, we see the lowest. But children always have that openness to learn. They want guidance. So Jesus took this child and told his disciples to welcome the child, who was the lowest of all. Welcome the child in his name. And in doing that, they welcome God. Every child, not just the cute and cuddly ones. We don't get to pick and choose. This is the standard Jesus sets for us. Jesus asks us to serve the least of these, and in doing that, we serve God. Ask yourself, do you serve willingly? Jesus must have been concerned with the disciples coming to terms with the idea that they would be serving and taking care of the powerless, those without status. Jesus doesn't focus on power, and that's countercultural. It was then, and it is now. Yet with this child, he is teaching what it means to be a disciple. To follow Jesus means we table our own priorities to focus on the least of these. Our focus is meant to be on those who slip through the cracks of our society. Now, most of you know one of the ministries I hold dear to my heart is the Drop-In Center. On Thursdays, we have an opportunity to talk with people who are on the margins of our society over a cup of coffee and some cookies. We see some of the same people each week, and we've gotten to know them, and them us. Some we see only once as they travel from place to place. We can provide a welcome respite. Folks, this is not my ministry, but a ministry of the cathedral. We have a few people who come each week to be with our neighbors, and I want to thank those of you who do come. Thank you also to those of you who pray for our ministry, because without prayer, we're nowhere. I ask you also to pray and ask God if you are called to this ministry. Is God calling you to come and be with us? Take a look and recognize the power you have and the responsibility you've been given as a follower of Christ. Together, we can use our resources to make life easier for those without basic needs, even if only for a little while. As the reading of James tells us, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Every gift we have been given comes from God. And we've been given the gift of friendship. We all find it easier to go through this journey of life with friends. We have a much broader community outside these walls that is looking for our friendship and our support. What would happen if each person here and those watching together on social media decided to do one thing, just one, to make life a bit easier for those people outside of these walls? What would happen? Amen.